much to cross?
It's 150 one way.
150.
Yes.
I'm in Africa, in Botswana, crossing the Boteti River, on an adventure to find close animal encounters in Africa. Welcome to part 3.
Na 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 na, oh, baba we. Na 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 we. Na 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 na, oh, baba we. Na 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 we. Undegero la way baba. Ero nagi rock no mana lepto chinde. Undekero na lawai baba nagi uru. Ero nagi rock no mana lepto chinde. Na 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 na.
It's quite smooth in a rough sort of way, and it is like rock to touch it. It is so solid. It's not like wood at all.
Undegero la way baba, ero nagi rock no mana lepto chinde. Undegero la way baba, nagi rock no mana lepto chinde. Na 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 na, oh, baba we. Na 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 we. Na 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 na, oh, baba we. Na 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 we.
I believe that a lot of travelers to Africa make the mistake of focusing almost exclusively on the wildlife and animals. That's not what Africa is about. It's an important component of adventure travel in Africa, of course. But places like this, uniquely African, and they're extraordinary by any measurement. This to me is real Africa, not the lions and elephants and kudu, as wonderful as they are.
So we've done some things.
Entered the Makgadigkadi Pans National Park, of course it was across the river, the Boteti River, and now we're going to have a little game drive and look for some animals. This area is quite well known for the zebra migration, and I think we're actually seeing part of it now because there are hundreds of animals here. Fish eagle. Because the national parks in Botswana charge a fair amount of money for camping, for example, a visitor from out of the region, $50 a day for camping. Plus the two of us, the entrance fee will be about $29 just to go into the park. So it can mount up, the costs can mount up. What many people do, and what we're going to do right now, is actually take a day visit into one of the national parks. This is the Makgadigkadi Pans Nxai Pan National Park. We went through the Makgadigkadi Pans National Park yesterday. This is part of the same region. We're just paying our daily fee, and we're going to go and have a look. We're staying at a small lodge, freshening up, not camping for a night, which we're doing that tonight. So and getting a little bit of laundry done, which is kind of ideal for us at this time. But it does mean that we're going to start seeing other people. We're not going to be alone anymore, because these are very popular, and this is one of the more popular national parks. And in fact, later on this expedition, we're going to get into the most popular national parks, and this being high season means that we're going to have to put up with people, which means that my patience is going to be tried. But I am going to do my best to be calm and collected, not get freaked out by stupid, noisy people that disturb my peace.
I'll beat you with the camera
Yes,
if you get out of hand.
Yes, you can do that. Okay. I've got a photograph on this very track, and I've used it in many of my books, of me topping up petrol in the Land Rover V8. And it's a narrow bush track, and I'm standing pouring fuel from a jerry can, which I remember now was on this very piece of track. How's that for memory? That was probably shot well, 1992.
What did you have for breakfast yesterday?
I have no idea.
Mama konya, yeah yeah, baba konya, mama konya, unde kero la wine again, na 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 na, baba we, na 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 we, na 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 na.
I love filming in the pans because of the sky, the big sky country. And the sky today is fantastic. Fantastic. So I set up a wide angle lens. I'm going to shoot with a wide angle lens. I'm going to shoot with a long lens and get a mix of the two to really just give the idea of this vast emptiness. And of course we're going to go and have a look at the trees in a minute. This collection of baobab trees are amongst the most famous in Africa. They were painted by Sir Thomas Baines in 1862 and have come to be known as Baines Baobabs. Unconfirmed, it is said the painting hangs in one of the British royal households. I look at these names that have been carved on the tree, people's names, and I can't help think that it must be part of human beings' need to leave a legacy. That inside of all of us, we all know that this, whatever this is for us, is temporary in nature. And we want to leave something behind. And there's something about, because you won't find graffiti anywhere in the Kalahari, apart from on living trees. And the baobab, being a very broad canvas, is an obvious attraction. I don't quite understand it, but I have to conclude that. And here are the young uns, the young trees. Now, realistically speaking, these trees are probably close to 100 years old. Even these ones here, they're very, very old trees. And because of the almost complete lack of sustenance in the soil, very, very salty ground, these trees are probably close to between 500 and 1,000 years old. Some baobabs in the area have been measured over 1,000 years old.
We've been pretty lucky. Soon after we arrived at Baines, the people that were already there left. And 4 hours later, when we were ready to leave, one other vehicle arrived. But it's time to leave. We have a rendezvous scheduled with friends in Maun, a town about 3 hours away, friends that will be joining us on our expedition.
This is one of those places that I just find so difficult to leave. We spent the whole day at the baobabs, and I just, as we're leaving, the light's getting more beautiful. We're finding it difficult to leave.
This is Maun, gateway to the Okavango. We have arranged to meet no less than 5 people here. To begin with, Jeremy from Seattle.
It looks like he's got a nice tent at the side of the river. Lucky old Jeremy.
Did you think we'd abandoned you in Africa?
No, it's been great.
Oh, nice to
I just moved into this like 2 seconds ago. How are you? Oh, I'm a bit sweaty. I'm sorry.
They told us you came yesterday.
I did, but I was in a different tent.
It's taken him 34 hours to get here.
I came in, I went to bed about 6 o'clock and I slept all the way till about 4:30 this morning. So I caught up on an entire, almost all the way. I'm still about 6 hours shy, but it wasn't bad from 2 days of travel. So it worked out really nice.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Then there's Bob.
I realized that an old friend of mine worked here 8 years ago. When I came here for a meal, we were doing a trip, and I looked at, this is Audi camp, and I looked at their quaint menu, which has photographs of staff members, and I found, to my absolute delight, and I have no idea if it's still here, a photograph of an old friend, Bob Avellino, who worked with Gun and I at Delta Camp. I suddenly realized there was Bob, and he worked here, and we had a wonderful reunion 8 years ago, and we're about to have another one now.
Bob's chocolate mousse. When we were running Delta Camp, chocolate mousse was the highlight of the dessert menu, and creme caramel.
Hello.
Marsh.
And then joining us on the expedition is Paul Marsh and his partner Joe.
Hello. How you doing?
Oh, well, great to see you, man. Hello, Gwen.
Joe, how you doing?
How are you?
Good, thank you. Hour.
Joe,
Not
good.
even less than an hour.
Jeremy. Yeah, good to know you.
Enjoying Botswana?
Fantastic, yeah.
How are you?
How are you? Good. How are you?
You're looking good.
Ah, nice meeting you. Nice to meet you. You're welcome, man.
And of course, we've wasted no time at all getting down to real business, and that is reminiscing about our wonderful year in the Okavango.
Andrew was 30. I was about 27.
How old are you now?
I can't remember.
59. You don't want to remember.
I can't count that high. I remember that. And he was, I killed him. He was.
We are, of course, talking about Matanta, our deputy manager and professional joke maker.
Bob was out. Yeah,
He'll be dropping by soon, hopefully.
To go forever.
absolutely.
How are you?
I would have recognized you anyway.
That's good. Hello, guys.
Hey, man. My good friend.
Jeremy.
Good friend. Okay, I'm Martin. I'm Matanta.
But nice to meet you.
Yeah, in Botswana.
Paul. Nice to
Paul,
meet
nice to meet you, Paul.
Hello, Joe.
Nice to meet you,
So
Joe.
nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So what you doing?
I'm still in the safari.
Yeah. Still cooking? cooking for Lechua. So we've got something for you.
A copy of the book we wrote. His reaction is exactly what we were hoping for. He's just realised the name of the book. Torn Trousers. His name, Matanta, means torn trousers.
So do you still do so many jokes on people? Or have you calmed down?
Ash. I'm grown up, I'm not longer.
You're not.
I'm grown up. I think my brain now is dead already. But when I got beer, I can talk shit.
Let's get the man a beer.
Wow, this is good book, eh?
This, eh?
Wow, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Well, it's daybreak in Maun. We head off today, head north into the wilderness. But not before we stock up on food and fuel. We'll be carrying 170 litres per vehicle. We need about 700 kilometres range, but the conditions of the sand tracks mean that we'll probably use most of that. Right, this is the main road leading to the Moreme Wildlife Reserve, and I must say it's in very, very good condition because I first drove this road in the back seat of my father's Range Rover in 1976. And in the vehicle we have Jeremy and Quinn. Right, our first game sighting with Jeremy. Very exciting. What a beautiful setting for a lunch stop. This piece of video footage is of my dad's Range Rover parked at this exact spot in 1976, and we came through after driving through torrential rain and mud for almost a day, and arriving here and signing in, entering the Moreme Game Reserve. This is high season now. There are lots of vehicles. Then there was no such thing as high season because there were so few visitors here that there was no measure for high season. We signed our name, spent 3 days in the Moreme, came back out again and signed our name directly under our name, signing ourselves in. Nobody else during those 3 days in May had entered the Moreme Game Reserve. It's a very different story today. This is South Gate, just north of the southern entrance to the Moreme Game Reserve. And what is very exciting is that the people there, we signed in, and they told us that beware of hyena and honey badger. Honey badger, that's pretty unusual to have honey badgers in a public campsite. So we'll be diligent in putting all our food away because hyenas can actually be quite troublesome around the camp. So they say 6 o'clock and the hyenas stop prowling around the campfire. And she said make a nice big fire to keep them away.
I thought she was a really good salesman.
She's either very good at selling wood, or we're going to have a very interesting evening. These birds are called arrow-marked babblers. They are the children of the African bush. They gather together and argue a lot, and are generally very playful. I have a confession to make. I don't really like camping. Let's put it this way. When camping becomes part of an expedition or trip to find an amazing place, then I enjoy camping. But camping for the sake of camping, I'd rather be comfortable at home. That's why if I look around me now, I'm in a public campsite. There are campers over there and campers over there and campers over there. We've got a beautiful campsite. It's gorgeous. And there are campers over there, and the associated noise with other campers. This is not my thing. It just isn't. Generally speaking, unless I'm actually using a public campsite en route to a destination, I avoid public campsites like the plague. I'd much rather just pull over at the side of the road, which I often do, particularly in Australia. However, this is what we've come here to enjoy, and it being high season in Botswana, there are going to be other people also camping. So we are going to be spending quite a bit of time in public campsites. And we're going to have to put up with other vehicles and other noise. It's just part of what we're doing. And it's needed because these areas have such an abundance of wildlife, and that's why there are so many people here. They've come to enjoy what we are hoping to enjoy.
And then you put now.
For example, here is a Frenchman with his family.
Yeah, you don't have to. After it goes,
Yeah.
this burns down. You'll be able to add logs and just keep it just off the ground so that it.
And the two pieces there, they
Needing help to make a campfire. I learned to make a campfire about the same time as I fell off my first bike. But here is a middle-aged man, never having done it before. This is proof you don't need to know everything before you go on an adventure.
You just had a pee outside. How do you feel now?
And it's time for us to see how close that hyena was to our tent.
Is it big enough for hyena?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he
Almost-
right past
almost
my tent,
certainly.
Probably while I was having my.
He was very close. In fact, that's about where, he sounded just behind the tent, didn't he? He was very, very close.
I think he took exception to me having a pee.
I think he must have, yes.
And always bringing a smile to my face, the arrow-marked babblers are back.
This trip is a little different from so many of my trips in such a very good way, and that is, yet again, we're not rushed this morning. We have a deadline, but if we had to drive directly to our next camp, which is at Kwai River, a community campsite, if we had to drive there, we could get there in about an hour and a half. But we're going to take a long route through the Moreme Game Reserve and look for animals, and it'll probably take us 4 to 5 hours, maybe 6 to 7 if we see massive amounts of game. So again, it's a brilliant, brilliant chilled day.
Got his eyeball. Hey,
Yes, it's
behind a bush.
That is the shot of the series. Perfectly framed elephant.
Another eye. I got a piece of a tusk now.
You're a genius.
While Jeremy shoots stills, I'm shooting video.
Looks like a water hole. Animals leaving, they've drunk and they're heading off.
That cute little baby.
I think it just clicked, Gwen.
What?
I'm in Africa. This gonna look stupid.
How many days has it taken?
4 days, and I finally woke up at the right time as well. So, yeah, I'm actually here. I like it, and the light's great. The weather's fantastic.
Coming down to this tree. Being at the right place at the right time.
In the next program, we make a campfire, we cross a bridge, and we look at a reflection.
What do you reckon as a campsite?
Click the Patreon button, see these first in 4K, and be part of our world.